Dear Diary, I just effing killed someone. It was amazing. As soon as you get over the, oh my God, I can't do this feeling, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm kind of nervous and shaky though right now. Okay, I gotta go to church now, LOL. At 15 years old, Alyssa Bustamante's journal reads like a Stephen King novel. On the evening of Wednesday, October 21st, 2009, Patricia Price was surprised and annoyed to hear a knock on her front door. It was just before 5 o'clock and she was busy making dinner. She could hear 9-year-old Elizabeth practicing her lines for a school musical. At the door was 6-year-old Emma Bustamante. She lived with her grandparents about 4 houses down, along with her twin brothers and her 15-year-old half-sister, Alyssa. On that night, she wanted Elizabeth to come out and play, and in St. Martin's, Missouri, population 1,000 plus, kids could safely play on the streets by themselves. Or so she thought. She was told to be back in the house for dinner by 6. Now, it was a promise Patricia knew the 4th grader would keep. By the time 6 o'clock rolled around with no sign of the 9-year-old, Patricia was starting to worry. It wasn't like her daughter not to keep a promise, and her cell phone was going straight to voicemail, and she wasn't at Emma's. Panic set in. Her heart was in her throat as she dialed 911. What could have happened to her little girl? Was she hurt? Had someone kidnapped her on her way home? The police were quick to respond. The first 72 hours are crucial in any missing persons case, and they didn't want to lose a second, especially not when a child was missing. The first stop was the Bustamante house. Emma was the last person to have seen Elizabeth, so she was questioned with her grandmother watching. She told the police they'd been playing in the driveway, and since they hadn't been inside, Emma's grandparents didn't even know Elizabeth had been there. A search party braved the elements but found nothing. Distraught and running out of time before this critical 72-hour window was up, the police decided to trace her phone signal. The signal was bouncing around the 60-acre wooded area behind the Bustamante house and the Olton home, the woods where Emma was afraid to go. When police tracked the signal, they found something strange. In the middle of the thickets and trees was a 3 by 5 foot rectangle hole. It appeared to be a small grave, and it was quickly filling up with rainwater. But before they could dig it up, Alyssa surprised detectives by admitting it was hers. When they asked her why she dug the hole, she said she just liked digging holes to bury dead animals in. Now, if she thought that was the kind of answer that would stop police from suspecting her, she was way off. They searched the Bustamante house and found a number of questionable things in her bedroom. At first glance, Alyssa's room looked like any other teenager's. It was messy. Clothes were in piles everywhere. There were wrappers, papers, random items strewn everywhere. But what really stuck out was her choice of decor. Vivid, disturbing poems were scribbled across the walls, some of them written in blood. And horrifyingly, there was a life-size drawing of a person with the name Emma written next to it. It was covered in slash marks. Alyssa had just become their best suspect. As she and her grandmother sat in the interrogation room, she was asked to walk the police through her day. Her voice was calm and collected when she said, "Okay, so I woke up and I got ready and my grandpa gave me a ride to school. I got home around 3, no 4, and I just hung out in my room for a while. And then I went for a walk. I was just walking around in the forest for a while, and I was supposed to take my little sister with me, but I ditched her because she's annoying. And I was just walking around in the forest. My brother and Emma later were asking about Elizabeth because she was supposed to be at home or something, and I didn't really think much of it. So we just went back to the house and we started to get ready to go to church. And her brother came over and he was banging on the door and he's like, 'Do you know where Elizabeth is?' Because he couldn't find her. And that's when people were wondering what was going on. Where is she? So just listening to her talk so nonchalantly about her missing neighbor was disturbing enough. But it's nothing compared to what she wrote in her diary. Among her entries, she wrote about the urge to burn down a house with a family still inside. She jotted down thoughts like, if I don't talk about it, I bottle it up, and when I explode, someone is going to die. But the most horrifying entry of all was dated the day Elizabeth went missing. The entire entry, half a page long, had been scribbled over in blue pen, like to cover it up. The only readable sentence was the last few words. I gotta go to church, LOL. What she didn't know was that police had the technology to easily read what she'd written underneath all those blue scribbles. And by technology, I mean they literally shone a flashlight underneath the paper and was able to read enough of it. I just effing killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them. Now they're dead. I don't know how to feel. It was amazing. As soon as you get over the, oh my God, I can't do this feeling, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm kind of nervous and shaky though right now. Okay, I gotta go to church now. LOL. 2 days after she went missing, Alyssa pointed out Elizabeth's body. She'd been buried in a shallow hole, also dug by Alyssa, and partially covered with leaves. When they asked her what happened, she tried saying it was an accident at first. We were messing around and she fell backwards and hit her head. And when they confronted her with the diary, she confessed. At that, her grandmother broke down screaming while her granddaughter just stared silently at her. So what did happen to Elizabeth that night? Well, based on the interrogation, the autopsy, and the forensics, the whole sordid story came out. Alyssa had been planning the murder for a while. She wanted to find out what it was like to kill someone. 5 days before she went through with it, she dug the graves. That night, she told her little sister to go and ask Elizabeth to play. On her way home, she lured her into the woods, saying she had a surprise for her. When the body was covered with leaves, she went home, got ready for church, and wrote about what she'd done in her diary. Is she a monster? How could a 15-year-old girl do something so cold-blooded and sick? To answer that, you need to get a closer look at Alyssa Bustamante. Her childhood is best described as terrible. Her mother was only 15 when she was born. When she was 8, her grandparents got custody of her and her brothers and sister since her mother was dealing with addiction issues and her father was in prison for assault. But even though things were better at home now that she was living in a loving home with her grandparents, Alyssa found the new life difficult. Her mother would sometimes visit her, but her visits were short, and when she left, Alyssa would often be found crying in her bedroom. She made A's and B's in school, she had friends, she even had a boyfriend. Her grandparents were active in the Mormon church, and they made sure Alyssa and her siblings were part of that youth group. But you didn't have to look too closely to see the cracks in the facade that she was putting out there. For crying out loud, her YouTube and MySpace accounts listed her hobbies as killing people. Even though she was being treated for her issues, it wasn't enough. Not enough people took her cries for help seriously. Her friends, just teenagers themselves, thought she was kidding when she questioned what it would be like to kill someone, or when she talked about suicide or death. Even her boyfriend shrugged off her behavior as emo. It's impossible to pin her breaking point on just one thing. Her father was violent. Was this a case of nature versus nurture? Did her grandparents rescue her too late? Now, Elizabeth did get justice for her death, but the question still lingers. Why did Alyssa do it? Why Elizabeth? Were the 2 graves actually meant for her brothers? She was charged as an adult for first-degree murder. Originally, she pled not guilty. And for the entire year until her trial, she stuck by that. But suddenly, the day before her trial, she changed her plea to guilty so she could take a deal for the lesser charge of second-degree murder and armed criminal action. She's serving life in prison, but she'll be eligible for parole as early as 2027. Now, some people think she deserves a second chance since she was so young when she did it, but it's not clear how much psychiatric help she's been getting in jail. Certainly, America's prisons aren't known for rehabilitating messed up juvenile killers like Alyssa. And at least one doctor believes she's exactly where she should be.